Good morning, legends, or g'day from wherever you are. Hope that you're doing really great and having a great day so far. Turns out my ultra clickbaity title yesterday wasn't actually far off the truth. It turned out to be 100% correct. All chaos or all hell did break loose in Ukraine. Now, I'm sure that you've heard, but the head of Wagner PMC, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has been confirmed killed by a plane crash in Russia. So we're going to talk about how this happened, what happened, maybe who's behind it. We're going to go over some footage. We're going to go over all of it. Now, Yevgeny Prigozhin, he is probably the third best known figure in this war behind Putin, Zelensky, and then I'd say Prigozhin, a very popular figure, a very infamous figure. So let's go over how this happened, who was Prigozhin, and everything that has come out over the past, say, 10 hours. Legends, when big things happen in the media, it can be so difficult to decipher what actually happened, with media leaning left, leaning right, leaning center, conflicting information we don't actually know. But today, I'm bringing you a sponsor of the video, Ground News, a sponsor who's been here before, supporting me a lot. And a day like today, where we've had Prigozhin be killed, the leader of Wagner PMC, and a website like this is fantastic to breaking down what actually happened. So here on the homepage, and of course, it's in the top story. So we've got both in here, the jet crash, killing the 10 and Wagner chief was on the list. And then furthermore, saying that the leader, Prigozhin, was aboard. Now we'll click into this, and this is going to show us so much more information than just a usual news website. What we see is then the AI here from Ground News has come up with a brief summary of what has actually happened, and then it can show us where the bias is actually being reported. So here it's 56% are from the center, and it's showing leaning right and leaning left, and when this is last updated, so within 15 minutes, it's being updated on the fly as well, the ownership of where this is. And then one of the best things, and I use this so much, is it compares news articles from the center, right and left, and their titles. None of us are immune to clickbait. It absolutely happens. But then we can compare our titles, how much factuality they've got, and which way they lean also. And then you can see the time and location of where this is being reported. Now, as you can see, this is being reported all around the world, but most are out of the US. Now, someone like Australia, we're just waking up at the moment, so maybe not as much there, but this is a huge story of the day. So check out ground.news/OIM, because I really believe what they're doing is important. Subscribe through my link for just $5 a month, and the link is also in the description. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring this video. But as I said, Prigozhin has been confirmed killed in a plane crash. Now, let's have a look at where it happened, and we'll go over some footage as well. And this video is going to be a lot more chilled out than usual. If you see me looking off to the side, I've got some notes open on my computer. Normally I use a teleprompter, but I just do not have time, as I think time is of the essence today. So let's go over, I guess, some of the photographs of this and what could this actually then be. So I think what everyone points to initially is, was it like anti-aircraft? Was it air defense hit the plane, took it out? Now, that's initially what I thought as well. And some of this footage tends to maybe show that. So this, I can't show the footage on YouTube, but of course my, what's it called? Telegram. It will all be on there. So you have like this burst here, and then the plane then falling out of the sky. These are just the next frame on, like frame by frame. And then you see the plane, where's the next one? And the plane continuing to fall down here with one wing completely off. And I think everyone, it was initially reported as air defense. But what I've thought about this is it's in a very busy area. So let's look at this. It'll make more sense in a second. Where is my geolocation? Here it is. I was bloody looking at it. So here is the plane in the ground. Now, it's been geolocated. Now, I'm not going to say this is 1,000%, but this is where most people are putting it, which is here. So, of course, it was traveling between Moscow to St. Petersburg at about 300 kilometers, or 186 miles north of Moscow. That's according to Russian state news TASS. So this is where that has been geolocated. So a long way from Belarus, a long way from Ukraine in this region. Now, Moscow is still incredibly busy airport. So it is super, super busy, but it does seem incredibly specific to hit that particular plane, especially as two Wagner planes were in the air at the time, two private jets, and this one, particularly the one with all the people on board it, was then hit. Well, all the very important people for Wagner PMC. Was it sabotage? Well, we don't know who's behind it. Was it Putin behind it? We're going to go over more of this. But people are saying that the wing could definitely have come off due to an explosive in some sub-storage as well. And look, I'm not a plane expert, but we're going to look at that. Was it sabotage by Ukraine, by Russia, by Putin, by Shoigu, by Gerasimov? These are all characters in this that could be, if I was playing Cluedo, who did it, those would all still be up. Now, the plane was made by Embraer. Now, I don't know how to pronounce that. They're who make this sort of plane, the Legacy 600 private jet. Now, as I've put in Telegram, and I was taking the piss, people thought I was serious. I was like, this is why I don't fly private, but it's referring to money, not this isn't going to happen to me, maybe. But that is a Brazilian company. Now, Brazil, of course, is part of BRICS. So I know BRICS is an economic alliance, more so than, well, it's not defensive like NATO is, as people have said that the plane was taken away for maintenance only within the day or the day before as well. And we have heard safety concerns raised by Russia about the safety of air travel due to the sanctions placed on Russia for some of the companies that then supply stuff in. So again, that is all part of it. Could it just be then an accident? So Joe Biden has said, but I'm not surprised about Yevgeny Prigozhin and this plane being hit and those people aboard. So as well as being air defense, wouldn't it more likely hit where the engines are on the rear of the plane if it is heat seeking rather than the wing? So I don't really know. This is so much information is not known yet, and it's really going to be a next couple of days, or if ever, to be honest. It actually comes out as we do know more. So there is one interesting thing with this, and Reuters reported it here, that Reuters reports that the jet believed to be carrying Prigozhin, yep, we know this, but showed no signs of a problem until a precipitous drop in its final 30 seconds, according to the flight tracking data. There was traveling in this region. At 3:19 GMT, the aircraft made a sudden downwards vertical, said Ian Petchidik from Flight Radar 24. Within 30 seconds, the aircraft had plummeted more than 8,000 feet from its cruising altitude of 28,000 feet. Whatever happened quickly. They may have been wrestling with the aircraft after whatever happened. So maybe something has struck it, or something on board as well has been sabotaged. But prior to its dramatic drop, there was no indication that there was anything wrong with this aircraft. A video showed the plane descending rapidly with its nose pointing almost down. So it's sort of doing this on the way down, like a falling leaf, but straight down on it. Now, I can't show you, of course, then all the footage. Now, footage has come out of Putin being returned to the Kremlin in convoy very quickly here. I'm guessing that is his limo thing in the bloody middle. So it's interesting what has happened and what happens next. Well, Grey Zone, being, of course, Wagner's or one of their Telegram chats, has said this will have catastrophic consequences. So let's talk about who was on board and some of these guys. So this is the list here. Of course, we have Yevgeny Prigozhin and Utkin Dmitry here, or Dmitry Utkin. It's reversed in this. So this is Dmitry Utkin here, as a very high figure in this, was a Russian army officer. He served as a special forces officer in the GRU, where he held the rank of lieutenant colonel. He alleged to have founded the Wagner group, with his call sign reportedly being Wagner. Here we know, not maybe the nicest bloke in the world here, but he was reported to be on the plane, as well as other senior members aboard. So let's have a look at this as that I got sent across. Now, take this with a grain of salt. I can't confirm this at this point. So Valery Chekolov is one of the Concorde managers closest to Prigozhin. He oversaw all of Prigozhin's civilian projects abroad and was responsible for the logistical support of Wagner Group. It was Chekolov who headed JSC Neva, the founder Europolis LLC, to which all Syrian African projects were tied. We know it has a lot bloody going on in Africa, especially right now. Dmitry Utkin, Prigozhin's right hand in the Wagner PMC, responsible for command and all combat training. Yevgeny Makaran, call sign Maka, former precinct. He joined Wagner in March 16. He was a part of the 4th Wagner Assault Detachment in Syria, which came under fire from American aircraft near Kashan in Jan 17. Further, Sergei Propulstin, call sign Keda, call sign Keda. He joined Wagner in March 15. He fought in the 2nd Reconnaissance and Assault Detachment. Prigozhin recruited many personal guards from there. Alexander Totman, call sign Tot. Nikolai Mutsev, cannot find this person with the name on the Wagner list, but there's Nikolai Mutsev Matsevich at Wagner since 2017. He served as a shooter in the 4th Assault Detachment, and meanwhile, his wife continues a long-planned vacation in India. So very, very interesting there. But these are all senior, very senior members of Wagner PMC. Now, we do know the mutiny a few months back, and Putin was not happy about this. And this is a clip of what he said when that mutiny was going down.
Кто поднял оружие на боевых товарищей, предали Россию и ответят за это. А тех, кого пытаются втянуть в это преступление, призываю не совершать роковую и трагическую, неповторимую ошибку. Сделать единственно правильный выбор. Прекратить участие в преступных действиях. Верю, что мы сбережем и отстоим то, что дорого и свято для нас. И вместе с нашей Родиной мы одолеем любые испытания, станем еще сильнее.
So, of course, that was Putin speaking about the mutiny and making threats there that don't make this fatal mistake. So that is, a bit of a threat there. And we have seen Putin before. People in the media, other political figures against Putin have a bit of a slip and fall out of windows before. So this isn't anything new if it was, launched from Putin. But we need to remember too, there's other people that fucking despise Prigozhin, Shoigu, Gerasimov, the top senior members in the Russian military, have had major falling out publicly with Prigozhin, especially when Prigozhin was in Bakhmut, about ammunition, supplies to the front, many things like this. So it's very interesting to see how this is all going down. Now, Visegrad 24, being incredibly pro-Ukrainian, has put this up, saying that this was AA shrapnel here, but in my eye, that is not really evidence of anything. I don't know, it's just some circles on it. Like, that could be really anything. There's another photograph of the tail of the plane, like this vertical stabilizer, not showing really any damage on it. Now, as well, here's another photo of Dmitry Utkin and Putin as well in the middle. So, of course, very, very close. So the Wagner PMC building in St. Petersburg has been lit up with a cross on it as well, and people are laying wreaths out the front here. Sent a couple of pictures through from outside the former PMC Wagner Center in St. Petersburg, placing lighting candles and flowers as well. So the big question in this is what happens next. It appears that a lot of the upper echelon of Wagner PMC was taken out in this strike. Now, Wagner PMC, they are making threats. They're saying that it's going to have catastrophic consequences going forward. We've seen Wagner before, like that video we just spoke about. They marched almost all the way through to Moscow. So we don't know what will happen next, but I think there will be a major falling out maybe in Russia with Wagner PMC. Maybe this is a plan to, collapse Wagner further. As we know, there's been more of this, contracts offered with the regular Russian forces, things like this. It's very interesting what over the next coming weeks or days will happen, or maybe, as we're speaking. Now, there are reports that Wagner fighters are being evacuated from Belarus back to Russia as well. But what the response will be from Wagner, we don't really know. There's some videos going around making threats, but a lot of people saying, well, that's actually definitely Ukrainians, and even on pro-Ukrainian accounts are saying, no, this is definitely our boys doing that. One interesting thing a friend of mine did send across is surely someone like Yevgeny Prigozhin has some level of fail-safe. Like, he's a fucking billionaire. He knows he's a target. Like, if we knew he was a target, trust me, he knew he was a target. He knows better than all of us how that system worked there, that he would have had a target on his back. Surely he would have had some sort of fail-safe, like what to do if I die, like what happens now, what does Wagner do, where does my money go, sort of a life insurance plan. And this could even be, people are speculating, some level of intel drop that, comes out about these leaders. So we don't actually know, but that could come out the next few days potentially as well. And I would not be surprised if we saw more like that. But are we really surprised by this? No. I think it's very blatantly obvious what has happened, more so than, Prigozhin was in Africa somewhere on the front line and got shot or whatever. Like, that would be more believable, but it still does offer that level of plausible deniability that we know that Russia like to have, and we've seen many, many times with, hits not similar to this, but windows, showers, drugging, poisoning, things like this. It's very surprising. Was it Putin? Well, I don't really know. Like, who actually benefits from this? So I can see the benefits from Ukraine. I can't really see them to Russia as a whole or Putin. Like, yes, Prigozhin was definitely a very big public figure, had a lot of support. But if Putin has taken him out like this, people are going to martyr Prigozhin. And it rise up maybe even more with that. Prigozhin had millions who loved him. All you need to do is go back to the Wagner mutiny, have a look at the footage a few months ago. People are cheering, they're taking photos with them. Other soldiers are, yeah, we're with Wagner. All of this, very, very loved. But as well, it does get Prigozhin, who is, a real threat to Putin. It gets him out of the way and his echelon, and they could absorb then more of his fighters. Somewhere between 60 and 100,000 fighters could come then under the blanket of the Russian military. We know that's what they tried to do when they were expelling them out into Belarus. But it's interesting what is going to happen now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wagner pick up arms and, have a war in Russia. Now, does that help Ukraine? Does that benefit Ukraine? Fucking massively. I still think that Ukraine could have taken more of an opportunity while everything was going to shit up on the mutiny towards Moscow, that everything had sort of gone fucking wild. That's your chance, and maybe we're going to see a huge chance for a push soon. 24th of August, today was the day we were meant to have those drone strikes, but maybe it's something else. Maybe this was actually it that we got the trailer for. But with Wagner have little to no actual involvement anymore in Ukraine. Like, they're doing some training in Belarus, but they've mainly moved offshore operations. So yeah, it doesn't benefit Ukraine massively, actually, Wagner itself, but it could benefit Russia hugely. But it also could be a huge downfall of Russia too, because people are like, what the fuck is going on? You're willing to take out these guys so publicly, in the afternoon, broad daylight, plane full of people. And something we do forget about, and I just want to say here, is these crew members, these guys, and the flight attendant, of course, these guys are fucking innocent. Like, these are just pilot, co-pilot, and this poor flight attendant here. Like, people like these guys, these are all upper commanders of military, complete military target, whatever. But these people are, well, as far as I'm aware, just innocent civilians in this, flying a private jet. So people fly bad people around all the bloody time. Look at all the pilots that fly around some dodgy celebrities to Epstein's. But the mutiny is a real threat, and it could be potentially fucking massive. So let's have a look at what then Surak Maps has said then about this, and I've got this numbered. Although there's still no official announcement of Yevgeny Prigozhin's death, it now is official. This was a little bit old. It seems that the leader of PMC Wagner and several of its commanders lost their lives in this afternoon's plane crash. It's not surprising that the cause of the crash was not fortuitous, but had been premeditated for some time, which I agree. I think it's been premeditated as well. In fact, we can't forget that Prigozhin led a revolt 2 months ago against President Vladimir Putin, an act which fortunately didn't lead to a civil war within Russia, but which marked the beginning of the end of Wagner as the mercenary group as we know. And we know they did go through a lot of trials and tribulations only in that 2 months since. As mentioned some time ago, the conflict between Wagner and the Russian army, and thus the Russian state, was becoming very evident. The successive failures of the so-called special military operation were increasingly criticised within the military itself and by the more nationalist wing of politics. Prigozhin was able to channel this discontent under himself and his victories at Soledar Bakhmut left senior Russian officers such as Minister Sergei Shoigu in a bad light, like we just spoke about Shoigu before. Indeed, General Sergei Surovikin was only recently replaced after his likely involvement in last June's military rebellion, of course, leader of the Air Force. Surovikin had been missing for a long time, or since then. Both he and Wagner's boss were ironically responsible for preventing the total failure of the military operation on Ukrainian soil. Recall that Surovikin planned an orderly withdrawal from the western bank of Kherson that saved many troops. In addition, while the partial mobilization was being carried out, he ordered the construction of the southern front defences, which have proved successful so far as a continuation of the offensive in the Donbass around Bakhmut. What would have been known, though not to my liking, as the meat grinder, in which a PMC and not the army would achieve a major victory for the Russian army after its disastrous defeat at Kherson and Kharkiv. So we saw Ukraine have successful offensives in Kherson and Kharkiv, and the Russian army pulling back. And like we'd spoken about back then, Russia got a win with Wagner PMC that actually gave them that win, gave them that bit of morale, that boost that, hey, we can actually do something here. But Russia was absolutely on the back foot there. For reasons such as these, Wagner has significant sympathy, not only among Russian soldiers, but among its population. The elimination of Prigozhin was still possible despite the agreement reached after the military rebellion, because he still presented a major danger to the army and the Russian government. A power structure difficult to change, in which its leaders closed ranks among themselves, even if they keep repeating mistakes that cost the lives of men on the front. However, these events demonstrate once again that the Russian state remains powerful, and that the essential role the military companies could play in the development of future conflicts has been diminished, at least in the Russian model. This is not to say that Wagner will disappear completely, as it is possible for it to do so, given the intermediary role it plays in the expansion of Russian influence in both Africa and the Middle East. However, the new restructurings that will take place in the near future within Wagner may have an important influence on the current conflicts in which it is involved: Mali, Syria, the Central African Republic. So saying, of course, the Russian state want to maintain control over the military, not these uprisings that realistically do pose a threat to their power and existence. Now, so finally, Prigozhin is one of those controversial characters present in Russian history, but there is no doubt about the role he has played in Russian foreign policy in recent years. The elite may never recognise that achievement, but for the Russian population never forgets its heroes and patriots. So yeah, Prigozhin was a bad guy, but he was incredibly influential, and for the Russian side, that is a big loss. One thing I will say about Prigozhin was during Bakhmut, he's the only commander I saw of the Russians who showed any empathy for the men taking place in that massive, savage meat grinder there. Now, like I said, more of this footage, all of this footage is available on my Telegram. I'm not selling it, whatever. You can go and see it there for free, or you can find it on Twitter, whatever, as well. Now, is he really dead? Now, I have a photograph here of then the poll. Now, I'm just going to recheck on this poll because it's been about 20 minutes since this has been up. So we only had 300 votes there. It hasn't loaded yet. Okay, so now we're at 460 votes. So it's very similar numbers. So 65% taking out Putin, 6% sabotage, 26% alive, fake death, and 2% accident. And I think at the moment, and I should have added into that Shogu Gerasimov as well, and some of those other key figures who really didn't like him, he made them look bad in front of Putin. So it's very interesting, but it could just be a horrific accident, lack of bloody maintenance as well. You know, it seems highly unlikely because it was, you know, that plane, that area, those guys aboard, same as the air defense. I think the air defense is highly unlikely. No, if it was just a mistake, being there's so many planes, why specifically that one? So people have pointed that, did it think it was a Ukrainian drone? We know that Russia would have been on higher alert today because Ukraine has threatened drone attacks today. Don't know. There's multiple planes in the air, and the size of like a private jet like that compared then to drone, significantly different forward speed, height, things like that. You know, 28,000 feet, you're going to be going, I don't know, 800 kilometers an hour for, like, pretty obvious it's not going to be a drone. I'm thinking at least on the radar. But speaking of, is he actually dead? And people have been saying this. Could it be a cover-up? And people have said that it was confirmed too quickly, that, you know, it was almost like instantly, oh yeah, he's dead, where people are saying in a crash like this, there's not that much left. You're going to wait for dental records, things like this. Does that pass, does just a PAX list and he was on it, does that pass like the beyond reasonable doubt? Now, I don't know. I'm not on that side. You can see here I've voted that I think it will, thinking about Putin, but I think like that upper echelon had definitely more to then do with it. But it is something that, you know, has about a third of the vote. Or actually, yeah, about that. So it is an interesting thing to look at. And someone did send me over a theory, wanted me to read through. I have a theory, but it could be wrong. He could still be alive, and for the reason for faking his death is the fact Wagner can no longer operate in places like Africa without being linked directly to Russia anymore due to the popularity gained from the Ukrainian conflict has totally destroyed any plausible deniability that they used to have, and the fact that the USA has also stated any attack by Wagner will be seen as an attack by Russia. And I believe when they said this in the statement in general and not in regards to NATO countries. If you read the push to deception of new lies and old, you'll know things like this old KGB tactic, and we all know who succeeded them, but who knows, of course, the FSB, where a lot of these guys then came from, Putin, things like this. But I think that's a pretty long bow to draw, but I don't bloody know. I did find this funny as well. A plane crash killing 6 passengers on board with Prigozhin's very infamous different outfit disguises there. So it is definitely, it's part of the theory. If a third of people think that, or more than a third, that is definitely very interesting. And there are benefits. It does have a level of plausible deniability, and we know that Wagner was about to be sanctioned as a terrorist organisation. It had been by some places, but the big hitters, US, UK, whatever, hadn't then done it, and they were maybe going to do it or about to do it. So that is interesting as well, those theories. But I'm sure more is going to come out in this because this is massive, massive news. Now, we're just going to have a quick little look at the maps here at the end. Now, the only change on the deep state, of course, down here is in and around Robotyne, that it is said that Ukraine has managed to then take all of Robotyne. They had a big breakthrough there. That's a lot of ground in a day. They've pushed up through these recaptured positions that Russia had and has then taken Robotyne complete, as well as pushing further on the east into this first line, or I'd call this the first major line of defensive works there. So getting into there and there. Now let's just have a look at what then Suryak map said. Suryak's been very popular today. So this is what it's saying here. And we also had a video that is geolocated, but we'll show you that in a second. So what has he said? War on the Zap front. Recent video footage shows Ukrainian flag placed on the roof of the town council of Robotyne, which was taken today by the 47th Mechanized Brigade. The battle has been one of the longest and toughest battles of the Ukrainian Counter Offensive, which lasted 71 days. So here we have Robotyne and under complete control of then the Ukrainian forces, and then the video here of the flag. I'm just going to skip forward. This is the building, and then we see the Ukrainian flag down here. But just look at the destruction of this town. Like, it's just absolutely everything. There's not one building standing, really. Like, this is just some bloody walls left. So incredible amount of fighting there. How many? Say 71 days. Incredibly long. So what I want to know is, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts on Prigozhin? Was it an inside job? Was it Ukrainian intelligence? Was it sabotage? Was it a fake? Is it, smoke and mirrors and Prigozhin somewhere on an island with Elvis and Tupac? I don't know. Legends. Sorry if this one was a little bit more sloppy than usual. I haven't really had that much time, and I've been up since 5 on a meeting. But look after yourselves. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.